Welcome to Freddy's. Have you met them yet?
Met who?
Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, Freddy.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Finally got to see this and give my 2 cents. And man, I had a relatively good time with this. I've got a lot of thoughts though, so let's piece this together. FNAF is currently the highest grossing horror movie out of this year, which is hilarious given it also released to a streaming platform on the same day. That's quite an accomplishment. It's just silly that it goes to Five Nights at Freddy's of all movies. But I suppose when the franchise has as big a following as FNAF, it was really only a matter of time until something like this happened. What's even funnier is that the biggest fans of this are probably children that this film is likely going to scare. With parents who probably don't even realize that this is what their children are into. This is going to be funny from all accounts. FNAF really isn't very scary any longer and is more centered around black comedy and an overly complicated story to satisfy the internet sleuths and MatPack, at least from what I can piece together here. Truth be told, I really only played the first 2 games and Security Breach, but I've watched Markiplier play it, I've seen a lot of the MatPat theory videos, and I've read up on the lore and the storyline, so I'm pretty much up to date. You can call me a fan. There's a lot of interesting history behind this film's production too that I want to go into, but let's start with the film itself. What's this story and how is it different from the games? In a lot of surprising ways, actually. This film follows a troubled security guard named Mike, who takes a night guard job at a defunct pizzeria named Freddy's in order to provide for his young sister named Abby. It just so happens the pizzeria is plagued by murderous animatronics possessed by the spirits of dead children, angry at their violent deaths at the hand of a certain purplish person. It also has Mike trying to recall details regarding the abduction of his younger brother when Mike was only 12. And also Vanessa is here from Security Breach because, I really don't know because she's a recognizable character from something modern right now, I guess. It's a fairly solid, if not somewhat complicated plot that includes a lot of unneeded details meant to either add to the body count or integrate things from future games, like Balloon Boy figurines showing up for some reason. I don't know. Look, I'm not going to try and make sense of the story beats Scott Cawthon makes. He just, in general, makes a lot of story decisions that can be rather questionable at best, and I think that shows up a bit in this movie for better or worse. I'll get into the story beats a little later, but first I want to talk about what works in this film. And first things first, this film looks amazing, especially the animatronics and the suits by the Jim Henson Company. I did not expect less from such a well-known company, and it is a real triumph to see these characters made not only physically, but so faithfully to the source material as well. Like, I cannot tell you how good these things look. Even in the trailers, they look fantastic. It really makes me hopeful to see more modern characters done in this way. Monty. Anyway, the cinematography in this as well is a lot of fun too, especially whenever viewing the monitors or watching the robots, stock intruders, or Mike. I just kinda wish that there was more of that. The director, Emma Tammy, clearly had a ball with the scenes and animatronic suits, and I think she did a fantastic job. Hopefully she sticks around for the 2+ sequels that we're gonna get, probably. Josh Hutcherson as Mike was a really good choice as well, I think. He's kind of an underutilized actor that has a surprising range. He doesn't really get to show it off a lot in this film, sadly, but the hints to it are there, and he's just really fun to watch. The child actors are all wonderfully portrayed as well, especially Mike's little sister Abby, played by Piper Rubio, who is a new character to the franchise. As the MacGuffin child, she certainly has potential to be annoying, but she does a fine job with the work she has to do and story beats that she has to carry. But of course, the 2 standout actors of the film, go to Matthew Lillard because duh, even though he only has like 3 scenes in the movie, and Vanessa, played by Elizabeth Lale. They are the strongest performances in here aside from Hutcherson. I wish we had more of Lillard, but what we got works wonderfully, especially the Scream reference and that ending scene that I will not spoil for the 2 people who haven't seen this movie yet. Can't wait to see more of them in the sequels. Vanessa too, but now we get into the changes from the game. The white woman jump scare herself feels weirdly out of place here, and her character feels especially odd as she essentially retcons canon and replaces another pivotal character from the games. I'm sure there's going to be some complicated explanation later on in the movies, probably with mind control because Vanessa, but as it stands, it's just a little weird for anyone who knows what this character is from. Hopefully she's expanded upon a lot more in the later movies because her character is a lot of fun, especially with how well she works off of Abby. Abby, though, is also very weird. I understand why she's here for story purposes and being new, but she doesn't really serve any purpose to the plot except to give Mike something to fight for. There's an odd subplot too involving an aunt who wants to take custody for child support payments that doesn't really go anywhere and is unceremoniously dropped from the film, so the whole point of that feels moot. It's lame and isn't really shocking or confusing like some other plot points in this are. It's just bizarre. I forgot to mention, but this has a couple of really shocking and scary moments too, especially for a PG-13 movie. And in some instances, add in some gore and this easily could have been rated R. I kind of wish it was, but then it'd miss out on its core demographic of younger kids, so that was never going to happen. And I completely understand why. Overall, this is a very solid, creepy film with plenty of fan service, but also a lot of unique parts. Some things don't work, like Abby the MacGuffin and Vanessa's involvement, but I feel like there's plenty of room to expand, like I said before. There was one moment, though, in this film that really rubbed me the wrong way. I just really disliked it. And that was about 2/3 into the movie, where all of the horror completely fades away, and the FNAF gang, Mike, Abby, and Vanessa, all get together and have a fort building rock montage that goes, ooh, whimsy, and no. I sat back when this was going on and literally asked myself if I was watching a horror movie or a family-friendly buddy comedy at that point. It was bizarre and incredibly out of place. I can understand an argument for why it was in there, but it just feels so different and so jarring that I didn't like it. Thankfully, it only lasted a couple minutes, but the damage was done. It completely ruined the mood and just felt incredibly weird. Everything else after that felt like a rush to get to the ending scenes. It's a real shame because had that time been used to explore more about, say, Afton or even Vanessa's backstory and involvement like we do get a little later on, it could have kept the intrigue and suspense going, even if it had to sacrifice some runtime. It's hard to view the animatronics as threats after that scene, and truly, they barely are for the rest of the movie. After the one scene of them attacking people, they really don't do much, which is a huge shame. There's plenty they could have done, but instead they just kind of plod along or do robot things. It's just a bit disappointing. I guess I should also talk about the 2 other FNAF-esque movies, being Willy's Wonderland and The Banana Splits. There are rumors saying that those films were rejected FNAF scripts, but I don't think so. They each have very different tones and such wildly different story ideas that I think they can each be separate from each other. And I still love Willy's too. Oh, that reminds me, the soundtrack for FNAF is fantastic. Sounds like something Bear McCreary would do, but instead came from the Newton brothers and some Living Tombstone because of course. I hope they all stick around for the sequels. It's just great. So then, final thoughts here. The FNAF movie is a flawed but enjoyable film that looks and sounds amazing and is well acted, but is ultimately held back by strange story ideas and bizarre plot beats. Hopefully the sequels can tie these up a bit better and maybe lean as hard into the gore as a PG-13 will allow, but for this it's serviceable enough. I think it's a pretty decent introduction into the FNAF movie universe. Hopefully we can just expand from here and get into some more interesting horror bits. And of course, the story that FNAF is known for, because it's all over the place. Ultimately, Five Nights at Freddy's gets a 7 out of 10 from me. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around for another one. Oh, this is a good year for video game adaptations, I guess. Although it's not a perfect movie, there's definitely a lot of building blocks here for something great. I really think if it didn't have that one scene 2/3 in and it kept the proper pacing and maybe replaced it with some more backstory or something, that this film could have been bumped up to maybe an 8. I really don't think it was a 9. But there's just a lot of fat here that I feel like could have been trimmed, especially that whole side plot with the aunt and everything just goes nowhere and is dropped so quickly that it confuses me as to why it was even a problem. Sure, you can set up money issues. That's why Mike wants to take this job, because he needs to take care of his little sister, and money is a thing. That's really easy. You could have just leaned a bit harder into that, and instead of making it a custody battle, could have made it a social services battle with, hey, you need a job or we're going to take your sister away so that she's better provided for. That would make more sense. Go the Lilo and Stitch route. That's how that works. But, oh well. I'm excited for the sequels. I think where we leave off is a pretty interesting position. I don't want to spoil any more than that, but it definitely opens itself up for a lot more exploring not just this location, but the history, especially going into Afton's history that is really not touched on, surprisingly, in this film. It's talked about and then it's over. There's plenty more that people can dive into and explore in a movie format. So hopefully we get that. I don't know when. I think we're waiting like another 2 years. I think it's coming out in 2025. We'll see. That's the possible date. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you like FNAF? Do you like this? What animatronics do you want to see in real life? I'm just a Monty simp. He's great. I love him. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a video. I have some interesting ideas coming up soon, not just reviews. Hopefully more soon. I'm working on them right now. Yeah. Have a great day, and if you're not, have a better one. See ya.
I'm just a ghost in your stereo. The fading memory of a shipwreck in the undertow. You're just a lost song.